honored that you're here and you're taking the time and you are engaged in becoming a better manufacturing engineer or better at your craft. I mean, that's the mission that I hope we all have, is to continually get better and improve. And then because we do, we're able to add more value to the companies that we are working for. And if we are adding more values to the company, or adding more value to the companies that we're working for, then the eventual outcome is that they will pay us more money. So we will increase our value, therefore command higher pay from the companies that we work with. So that's why I want to pour into you, pour into our customers, and help continue to improve what you're doing every single day so that you can add more value. So today we're going to talk about how to choose a capital equipment supplier. So welcome to this webinar. This is the only real marketing that we do. I want to talk to you about what we do at CapEx Sales. Our focus is on relationships. We want to help our customers get better. We want to help them make smart decisions in their equipment and supply them with the appropriate manufacturing equipments. And these are the companies that we represent in doing so. So ATC Automation, a wonderful company out of Cookeville, Tennessee. 85% of their business is with repeat customers. That's really all I need to say about how customers respond to ATC. ATC does the right thing in all aspects of the business, and customers keep coming back year over year. So 85% of the business we do every single year is with customers that we did business with in years past. And that says a lot for an automation company. Cincinnati Test Systems is the largest leak test company in the world. Leak and functional test is what they focus on. So a wonderful company, pressure decay, mass flow, helium mass spec, also functional testing, hydraulic testing, load testing, any type of end of line testing is also in their wheelhouse, in their skill set. Duquesne is a large global plastic joining company. They are out of St. Charles, Illinois. They focus on vibration welding, hot plate welding, ultrasonic welding, anything welding of plastic components. That's what they do. Symmetric is a division of Cincinnati Test Systems, but I talk about them separately because they're focused on really the Industry 4.0 aspect of the manufacturing business. High speed in process and data management is their focus. And then Keller Technologies, they're located in Fort Mill, South Carolina, right here in Fort Mill. Their focus is industrial air filtration. They do wet as well as dry air filtration. So, all right, the commercial aspect is over. Let's talk about choosing the right supplier, the right capital equipment supplier for your projects. Very important. I will tell you the major mistake. I wrote a short booklet on the mistakes that we make with capital equipment. If you're interested in that, just let us know. Russ@capexsales.com. I'm happy to send that over to you via email or mail it to you if that's what you prefer. But one of the biggest challenge, the biggest problem that companies have is they choose the wrong supplier. They choose a supplier because the price is cheap. They choose a supplier because of ease, the path of least resistance. There's any number of reasons why a supplier is chosen that is not the right fit for the application. And what you want to do and what you want to focus on as an engineer is making sure that obviously you're going to match up the right supplier with the right application, because that gives you the biggest and best shot at being successful. So the challenge is, when selecting a supplier for capital equipment, there are several points that we must consider to ensure that we choose the right supplier. Number one is their project management style. What's their strategy? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the supplier's experience and how that plays into your decision-making process. We're going to talk about supplier specifics, location, skills, strengths, things such as that. Location, service strategy. How are they going to support the equipment after it's at your facility? You're going to get some references. You got to check references, just like hiring somebody or using somebody at your house. You want to check references from people that you know that have used them in order to confirm that they are going to be the right selection for you. And then we're going to use a matrix. We want to make sure that you're using a supplier selection matrix that helps you avoid the emotions that go into making a decision such as this. Obviously, there's always emotions when we are choosing and selecting, but how do we minimize those by using tools to help us make smart decisions? One thing that's really helpful, and I talk about it in the capital project mastery training course that I do, is we want to take time to create a vision for the ideal supplier. What do they look like? Where are they located? What skills do they have? What specific abilities do they bring to the table that other suppliers do not? What is their service strategy? What is your experience with this particular supplier? So create a vision of what the ideal supplier looks like for your company and for your application. Critical that you take the time to do that. All right. Now, project management. What are we looking for in a project manager? How do they manage projects? Well, there are really two types that I've come across in the industry out there as far as capital equipment. We have a team-based strategy. That's what ATC deploys. And then we have a project or a matrix-based project management strategy. So the difference between the two is that the team has a team leader, or essentially like a president of that team, and that team has the capability to execute a project on their own. They have mechanical engineers, they've got electrical engineers, they've got the controls engineers, they've got the machine builders that are going to be necessary to actually put the machine together. And so with those skills, they've got on their team the capability to build an entire piece of equipment. So they have all the resources necessary to execute your project. That's team-based. In that situation, the team leader controls all of the resources. They determine what they're going to be focused on and direct them accordingly. The other option is the matrix-based organization. Now, a lot of companies, they'll say, "Oh yeah, we have a team-based system," but really what they have is they've got a project management matrix-based system, meaning that they've got a pool of mechanical engineers, and they've got a pool of controls engineers, and they've got a pool of machine builders. And when a new project comes in, they go and they grab someone from this pool, and this pool, and they say, "Okay, you go be a team and go execute this project." So that team, those people, those individuals haven't necessarily worked together on multiple projects in order to understand their strengths and build off of each other to make sure that they are maximizing their efficiency and abilities in executing the project. So that is something that you have to keep in mind when you are looking into how they manage projects. So the team-based system found to be very effective. You as a customer become part of the team and really get integrated into. So at ATC, as an example, we've got over 300 employees. So you're going to be working with a team that has 15 to 20 employees that has the ability to execute your project. So you're not worried about 300 people. You're going to be focused on and get to know 15 people. It's a different concept, different idea. Each of those teams has their own P&L and they're really individual business units within an automation company. So you want to have direct control. You want your team leader, your project manager to have direct control over the resources, because what happens is let's say you're a small company and you don't often do many projects, and you choose a supplier that has a project manager strategy. They've got a matrix organization. What they do is they say, "Oh, General Motors just gave us a $5 million project. We're going to have to take that project manager. We're going to have to take some of these resources that we're working on your project and focus them over here on GM. But don't worry. We have other people that we're going to plug in and support you on the project." Well, that doesn't happen in a team-based system, because that team is already working on your project, and they don't take it out of that team and put it into another team. I've been doing this for I don't know how many years, and I've never seen that happen. So that team is committed to your project from day one, and they're going to break those resources up and ship them out to do other projects when their priorities change. So that is something that is a benefit to having a team-based type of organization. What type of project management tools does the supplier use? Do they use Microsoft Project, SharePoint, Zoom? Do they use Microsoft Teams? Do they go to meeting? What are the different tools that the company deploys in executing your project, keeping you up to speed? Really, successful project management is about communication. It's about dialogue with the customers, dialogue with suppliers, and just making sure that everyone is on the same page and working toward the same goal. Open issues checklist. How do they manage this? So how do they keep track when issues arise? And then how do they manage change? That's one of the biggest challenges that we have in the capital project world is we all agree to a price, we agree on a strategy, we agree on exactly what it is that we're going to do. And then inevitably, there are changes that come up along the way. How do we manage through those changes so that we maintain the relationship, we don't break the bank, and we maintain the timeline? So having some experience and examples from your supplier to help you understand how they manage through that is very helpful so that and you can say, yes, that's what we're looking for, or no, we don't like to manage change that way. So as an example, some customers that I have, they like to just keep a running change list. So they don't want to get PCN, so that's project change notice. They don't want multiple project change notices. They want to just keep a running tally so that we do a PCN if we're giving a credit. We also do a PCN if we are needing additional funding to do some changes that have been made on the project. So they say, let's just keep a plus minuses checklist and we'll manage accordingly. Others want that detailed PCN, every change. They want it documented, they want it noted, they want it signed off on. So each company is different in how they like to manage change in the organization. So as I mentioned, communication is key to your success in capital project management. So are they willing to set up a weekly call with you and your team every week, getting on a call? It is that important that you stay up to speed. Everyone stays up to speed. How are we doing on the timeline? What are the risks that we are managing? Any project changes, any product changes, what is going to direct or derail this project? That's what you want to be talking about every single week so that there are no surprises at the end of the day. A supplier's experience. So there are two aspects to experience. We're going to talk about those here, products and your industry. So do they have experience with your products, and do they have experience in your industry? Ideal to have a supplier that has both. So direct experience with similar products is super important, super helpful, right? If someone has put together a pen before. So someone's put together these pens before, and you're looking for a piece of automation that's going to put together a pen. Well, it's ideal in many cases that you find someone that's put together pens before because they're going to have experience that you may not have that they can bring to the table and help you be more efficient and effective at making pens. Now, that's not always the case. I'm not saying you always want to find someone that has that experience because oftentimes, these are new products, new things going on, or the suppliers that have been in that business, maybe they're overseas or somewhere else. So then you're looking for the competence and capability to execute on that front as well. So products, markets, customers, that can mean the difference between success and failure is your supplier's experience. So what is the experience with difficult applications? So if you're working on a particularly challenging application, so assembling a pen is not a particularly challenging application. Assembling syringes with needles in them and sharp objects, now that might be a complicated application. So do they have experience, and what is their experience with working with difficult applications? You want to speak with employees at the company that were involved in similar projects. You want to understand their experience to the best. Remember, don't be shy. So your reputation as an engineer will be dependent on the supplier that you select. So be vigilant. Don't take their word for it. Ask lots of questions and then verify that the answers you're getting are making sense and adding up. You want to test their knowledge with Q&A. That's what I was just saying there. Don't be shy. Ask. You want to understand exactly their experience and how they're going to execute and ensure success on your project. Next, supplier specific. So longevity, structure, financials. How is this company structured? Are they part of a holding company? Is it individually owned? How long have they been around? So these are some of the questions that you want to have answered and be potentially part of your matrix in ensuring that you make a smart decision. Oftentimes our emotions run high. Maybe we like the salesperson. I know it's very rare that anybody likes the salesperson, but let's just say that you happen to like the salesperson. Well, you don't want to make a decision to go with a supplier because you like the salesperson. You want to make sure that the salesperson's company that they're representing has some specific criteria that validates that they can actually execute this project. So again, your reputation is dependent on the supplier that you select. So you want to make sure that that supplier is going to be around for the long haul, and that they're not just going to take your money and you end up with no equipment. So very important there. So how long have they been in business? That's a simple question. How many systems have they produced? How are they structured internally? Who are the stakeholders in the organization? And how do they determine which project will get the available resources? As I mentioned, if we've got a matrix organization, it could be challenging to get the resources that you need to execute the project, or that the project manager needs to execute the project, because maybe the ideal resources aren't available. They're working on a different project. So really important that that you understand how those resources get divvied up in the organization. So who answers to who, and who has the final say in the distribution of resources? Why do I ask this question? There was a customer of mine that was working with a company, and they had a situation where they needed resources on a project, and the owner of the company did not allow those resources to be applied to that project because that owner had different priorities. And because their priorities weren't aligned with his priorities, he controls the resources. And so he directed those resources elsewhere, therefore making their project late. So really important to understand who is in charge and how those decisions get made to manage the available resources. Supplier location and service strategy, really important to some customers, not so important to other customers, but where they're located and what is their strategy for supporting your equipment. So choosing a qualified supplier that is drivable can help keep the spending in check from time to time. So if that is a concern, if that's a cost that oftentimes we don't put into the actual cost of the equipment, right? So we calculate the cost, but we don't calculate all of the resources and effort it takes to actually get the equipment run off and in your facility. So it's important to be aware of that and cognizant of the additional cost associated with travel, as an example. So where is the supplier in relation to your facility? Is it important to you that it's drivable? It may not be. Some customers don't care. Other customers, it matters. It's a differentiator for them. Where is their service personnel? Are they going to be able to service your equipment within a few hours, or is it going to be days, or are they overseas? I've seen that a lot lately with, the market's really getting weird for capital equipment. These companies, as global companies, they say, oh, well, we choose Chinese suppliers for these machines, and we choose German companies to build these type machines, when the company in the U.S. may have the same capabilities in suppliers locally. So they get this equipment from China, they get it from Germany. Sure, it gets run off, but they don't have any service for that equipment. And so over the course of time, that costs them a lot more money than it would have if they just bought locally and used the local service that they have already been using. So again, kind of a weird market, but it's important that you understand what's the service strategy after you get the equipment, because that's when you really need them. Not beforehand. So flying to a supplier with key personnel to run off can be an expensive endeavor. So keeping all those things in mind when you're making these selections is really important as well. So the references, your supplier is going to supply you references. Now the references that they're going to send you are going to be, they're not going to tell you the bad stuff, or because they're likely going to have had good experiences with the supplier. I mean, surely I'm not going to send you references for someone that's had bad experiences with the companies that I represent. But I'm going to encourage you to dig deep. What are the weaknesses? You want to understand the weaknesses. This isn't like checking references for somebody you're going to hire and you can't really ask them detailed questions. I mean, this is a reference for a piece of equipment that you're going to buy. Ask them questions, dig deep. So make sure, don't be shy, ask for references, then check the dang references. And then how did they manage the projects? That's what you want to know. Dig deep. How do they take care of customers since the delivery? So, oh, you had a great experience with the equipment. How have they serviced and supported you after you have received the equipment and it's been up and running in your facility? What is that look like from that supplier. Again, don't worry about putting them on the spot. Be very direct. You want to understand how these people perform uh, during the project as well as after the project has been delivered, because very important. Make the calls again. Check those references. Don't be shy in checking those references. So now, this is a really key component. We want to have a spreadsheet that lists the values that you have determined are most important in selecting and choosing this supplier. So you want to make sure that you've got those in a spreadsheet that you can use as a decision matrix. So here are some ideas that you might add to that list. So experience with the products or processes. So maybe the product, they've got experience with the product, but they don't have experience laser welding this gear to this shaft. And it's going to be a really challenging weld with dissimilar materials, and you're going to have a filler material in there. Well, that is not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry is going to do. So having a customer or a supplier that has that experience might be important to you, and you'll want to understand that experience. The price might be, I mean, that's something that's going to be on your supplier selection matrix for sure. Lead time, how much floor space is it going to take up? Compliance with the RFQ. If they didn't comply with the RFQ, if you send a list of things that you want to make sure that we're in there, and you get a 4-page quote back, and it doesn't have any detail, it doesn't have anything referencing your RFQ, confirming that they read what you put in there, well, they're going to be pretty suspect. So make sure that you are delving into all of those details. How did they comply to the RFQ? Concept viability. Is their idea going to work? You've got experience building this product, most likely. You've been doing it for years. Are they out in left field, or do they really have a grasp on what it takes to execute in putting your product together? Terms. What are the terms? Sometimes that is really important as well, depending on your cash flow needs for your business. And then the service experience. So your service experience, the experience that they've got servicing others, the references, all of that goes into service and how they're going to service your product. So proposed equipment cycle time. Now, one of the things that we want to keep in mind, especially with assembly equipment and other processing equipment, is the cycle time will determine obviously how many parts you're able to put out the door at the end of an hour, and that's typically how we evaluate it, as parts per hour. So we want to take into account all the efficiencies. So if someone says 100 parts per hour, is that at 85% efficiency? What is that? So we've had some challenges over the course of my career with not completely being on the same page with cycle time. So make sure you're very clear on that when you're working with your supplier. All right, here. So choosing the right supplier will make all the difference for your success as a project manager, for your success in executing and implementing capital equipment. These are the things we talked about. What is their project management strategy? What is their experience? What are some of the specifics as far as this particular supplier, where they're located, what's their service strategy? Check those references and make sure that you have put together a supplier selection matrix that's built off of the vision that you have for the ideal supplier that you're going to have execute this project. Awesome. So next week, we're going to be talking about real value of the manufacturing engineer. So how you can deliver more value to your companies as a manufacturing engineer, and therefore increase your ability to earn more money. It is really, that's what we want to do, is help you get better, help you get more and build more skills in your craft so that you can elevate and move yourself forward. As always, we are grateful. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve you. We appreciate that opportunity. My name is Russ Sorrells. Again, I'm located in Western North Carolina, and then I have select upstate South Carolina accounts. We've got Chris Mullins over in Eastern North Carolina and Virginia. And then we've got Mike Dorsey, who rambles around all of South Carolina. And we are ready to serve you and help you grow in your career, as well as executing some of these automation or leak test or welding projects. Have an amazing day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.